Management Research. Hello and welcome to the Management Research podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eugene. Hello and welcome to the next episode in my mini-series dedicated to the topics of strategic management. And in particular, we start working on one of the tools that everybody likes and I criticize, which is called the SWOT analysis, or the analysis of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Don't get me wrong, I like the tool, but I see that it is often applied in a very unrigorous or not so correct manner. That is why we try to address in the next episodes the correct application of the SWOT analysis. In the previous episode, I mentioned a lot of criticisms of the SWOT analysis. The first 2 or 3 were that it is vague, it is unstructured, and it relies very often on the principle garbage in, garbage out, or anything goes. Very often, professionals, practitioners, and students just take any information that comes to their mind, and this information is not really structured and doesn't help them to resolve the problem at hand, or maybe just a reflection of what they believe, but not of what is really happening on the market. That is why we try to introduce a little bit of structure, and here we are lucky that we have plenty of episodes dedicated to the 5 forces framework and plenty of episodes several months ago dedicated to the resource-based view and capability-based view of the firm. If you look at the SWOT matrix, the 2 letters, the S and W, strengths and weaknesses, they are actually can be addressed using the resource-based view and the capability-based view, because these 2 views, they deal with the organizational resources and capabilities, and this is exactly what should be, at least to my opinion, in the blocks, in the quadrants for strengths and weaknesses. It will also make your SWOT analysis much more understandable, because if you look at the strengths and weaknesses through the lens of the resources and capabilities, you will formulate them differently. It means you will not just write our strength is our personnel, but you can write, first of all, more precise if we think about the resources. Our strength is our infrastructure, that we have the perfect building, that we have the perfect equipment. These are the resources. And you can also write the capabilities. We have the perfect problem-solving capabilities with all the personnel that we have hired. The capability is different from our resources in how you formulate them. The capabilities are about doing something, about action. And problem solving is a good example of describing a capability. And logistics resources and logistics capabilities are 2 different things. Logistics resources are like the lorries and the warehouse facilities and so on. And logistics capability is actually how you can use them, how you can apply them. If we talk about strengths and weaknesses, mostly we are talking about the capabilities, but it doesn't mean that you cannot mention both. That is why if I were you and I would like to analyze my strengths and weaknesses, I would list both the resources and the capabilities. And I would list actually as many as we can, and better all we can. We can find them in different ways. We can find the results of our firm working, and from them we can derive the capabilities. We can look for the tangible and intangible resources. The tangible resources you can find in your balance sheet, and the intangible resources mostly in your patents, in your know-how, in the resource and development department. Just look at all the reports they write and so on. As you write it for your firm, you should have access to this data. In this way you can derive your resources. Then I would try to match the resources with the capabilities, because the fact that you have lorries and warehouse facilities doesn't mean that you are good in logistics. To have a logistics capability, you have to be very good in logistics. You need to have the processes, you need to have the structures that will help work with these resources. You need to have motivated personnel, and you have to have management that is able and willing to acquire the results of your capability. At least this is from one of the papers that I wrote, how we theorize about the capabilities. If you have the resources but you don't have the capability, then automatically they will become your weaknesses. Because you have something that you don't use, you have not developed the capability. Or if you don't have resources, then you cannot have a capability, and in both of these cases it will be your weaknesses. I would range them, prioritize them, and use the highest weaknesses to list them in the quadrant weaknesses. The opposite is true for strengths. If I were you, I would list the resources that we have that are valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable. I would go for the VRIN idea from Barney. And I would also look at where we have the capabilities to use them. So having something that is valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable is cool. Let's say you have unique machinery, but if you don't use it, it cannot be your strength. I know that Barney, and we discussed it in one of the episodes, would say that capability can also be VRIN criteria, but I don't see a reason why we should overcomplicate it here for the SWOT analysis. I think we need to have the resources that are valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable, and where we can work with them. If you have such resources and you work with them, these are your strengths. And actually these are your key strengths, because if something is valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable, it is a key to your sustained competitive advantage. But again, not only having the resource, but also knowing what to do with it, applying it successfully, it means having a capability. I would approach the strengths and weaknesses through the lens of both resources and capabilities. I would split them and look at what are the VRIN resources, at least it is logical and well structured, and how we can use them for strengths, and where we lack some resources, or where we have resources and lack their deployment, which would be a lack of capability, and I would list this as a weakness. Again, it is not so simple, just because if you have a lot of strengths and a lot of weaknesses, it is something very subjective. Weakness regarding what? It can be a very cool resource, but not your market niche. In this event, it would be using it, applying it would not fit. That is why the strengths and weakness can also have additional dimensions, like whether we need it on this market, whether this resource, this strength is fitting the market, and so on. For this, we have additional analysis, whether the capabilities and the resources we have are of necessity for the market, whether they are important or not. For now, I think we're done in trying to understand what do we have to write in strengths and weaknesses. We have the resource-based view and capability-based view, two strong theoretical frameworks, and we have pretty clean pattern of what should be written into these two quadrants. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the next two quadrants, the opportunities and threats. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was useful, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.